Hey there, I'm Brad with Splash Damage Tech, at it again with another video on this brand new Barnes & Noble Nook Tablet 10.1 inch. Hopefully by now you've seen my unboxing, performance, and accessory videos. Today, it's time for the full review. By now, I've had this tablet for a few weeks and I've got a pretty good feeling of its overall performance, build quality, features, and battery life. So let's get started. This tablet is running Android 8.1 Oreo with a security patch as of October 5th, 2018. It's rocking a pretty low-powered chip, the MediaTek MT8167A. That's a quad-core ARM Cortex-A35 running at a maximum of 1.5 GHz. The onboard GPU is a PowerVR GE8300. This system on a chip is paired with 2 GB of RAM, and the onboard storage is 32 GB, with 25.3 GB free on first boot. The screen is a 10.1-inch IPS LCD with a resolution of 1920 by 1200. The Wi-Fi is a healthy 802.11 A, B, G, N, and AC dual band, so both 2.4 and 5 GHz support. The Bluetooth is 4.1 and does support low energy. The tablet has two cameras, both 1.9 megapixel. The front camera can shoot video at a maximum of 480p, and the rear camera can do 720p. There are two speakers that play in stereo on the bottom or right of the tablet, and the battery is listed at 6,300 mAh. Now onto the ports and buttons. Again, in portrait mode. Along the right is the power button and the volume rocker. On the left are the pogo pins for the charging dock and keyboard cover, along with two holes for alignment with the dock and the cover. On the bottom you'll find the two stereo speakers. On the top there's a 3.5mm headphone jack, MicroUSB input, a microphone, and an inconspicuous microSD card slot that I actually missed in my unboxing. The front of the tablet has the 1.9 megapixel front-facing camera as well as the ambient light sensor. And finally on the back, there's the 1.9 megapixel rear camera along with that cool little Nook logo. This tablet feels excellent in the hand. No fancy aluminum frames, glass backs, or exotic materials here, just some nice feeling soft touch plastic, in a nice blue, with some gentle rounded edges. The soft touch back does seem to reject fingerprints pretty well, but it is starting to show some of what looks like scuffing from sliding around on my desks, and I haven't been very rough on this thing at all, so only time will tell how this finish will hold up. The buttons have a nice tactile click to them, and the power button has a ridged texture. The screen is the only place it's let down here, and I'm not talking about the resolution, the brightness, or anything like that. I'll get to those in a minute. I'm talking about how it feels. It just feels a bit flimsy, if that gets the message across. And there's no Gorilla Glass or Dragon Tail here, so this will definitely scratch if you're too rough. It also has quite a large air gap between the LCD and the glass, which makes it look a bit cheap. Overall though, the tablet has a nice feeling in the hands. It's not so heavy that it's annoying, and it's not too light that it feels like a toy. The screen. Let's start with the resolution. 1920 by 1200 on a 10.1 inch IPS panel. Okay, that's not bad. Decent brightness range and an ambient light sensor. It's getting better. Glossy. Like, super glossy. With enough lights on and the screen off, I can easily check my reflection. That's to be expected at this price though, right? Most tablets are pretty glossy. At least my reflection is good quality. Also, there's a pretty large air gap. That's when you can see the edge of the LCD panel underneath the glass. So if you're looking from an angle, you may not be pressing where you think you are. It also makes the reflectivity of the screen while it's on a bit worse because light can reflect around inside that gap. Thankfully, this screen is bright enough to overcome that effect because I do use this outdoors. Well, not in direct sunlight, but on a sunny day, it shouldn't be a problem with the brightness cranked up. For the price, I can't complain anymore about this screen. It looks good, it gets decently bright, and it dims down pretty far too, and it serves the purpose well on this budget tablet. So you've got a nice big, bright screen. How about some movies? Well, we'll get to how it fares with those later, but sound is pretty important for movies, right? Unfortunately, you won't be filling any rooms with dance music, or feeling the explosions from that latest Marvel flick with these stereo speakers. Honestly, I was expecting more here considering that the stereo speakers were in the specs on the box. Granted, they were pretty low on the specs on the box, but still, they're pretty weak. The volume seems comparable to other devices that I use on a regular basis, but the sound is very tinny and hollow. Even my Blue Vivo 11, and that's a 5.9-inch smartphone, sounds massively better. Maximum volume also seems to induce some buzzing in the chassis, making it not a very pleasant experience. If you're thinking about just lowering the volume, it drops off quite sharply as the slider moves down. These speakers were a pretty big disappointment for me. I still use this device for some Netflix or YouTube, and it's a passable experience. So a good, if not great, screen, mediocre speakers, and a 10.1-inch form factor. This thing can't be good for games, can it? Well, I'd say it depends on what you're trying to play. If you're like me and you play mostly casual time wasters here and there, I think you'll be okay. If you're expecting to run Asphalt 9, PUBG, or Fortnite, I'd skip this one. Casual games like Mars, Alto's Adventure, or endless runners like Minion Rush, and puzzle games seem to work okay. Strangely, I was able to play some more demanding titles, like GTA 3, GTA Vice City, and Asphalt 8 pretty enjoyably on this tablet at low settings. Hearthstone also seems to run a bit choppy, but it's definitely playable. After a while playing, the back left in landscape does warm up a little, but nothing uncomfortable to hold. Also, as is pretty common on many devices, holding the tablet in landscape mode, you do end up blocking one of the speakers. I have another video of me playing various games on this Nook if you'd like to see more specifics about the gaming performance. Overall, it's not bad for the specs or the price. So after testing what this tablet definitely isn't designed to do, let's get down to what it was designed for: reading. It should come as no surprise then that this tablet excels at it. Its large, crisp, bright screen make losing hours in a book a downright pleasure. Same thing for comics, magazine, and even recipe books. This tablet isn't very heavy, so holding it for extended periods doesn't strain the wrists. Browsing on this device, though, is kind of a mixed bag. The low-powered chipset in this tablet struggles when rendering heavy web pages. I did a more in-depth look at the browsing performance versus this tablet's main competitor if you want to check that out. For casual browsing, like news sites, Reddit, social media, the tablet is just okay. It's usable. I even use this device pretty frequently for sofa surfing. Heavy websites like ad-riddled blogs and forums tend to really slow the device down, sometimes to the point of just not responding at all. So keep your expectations low, and don't be afraid of killing tabs, and it's a passable experience. Here's another job this tablet seems like it was designed for. The bright, crisp screen and stereo speakers paired up with the charging dock accessory make this a great device for consuming media. YouTube playback is smooth, even all the way up to 1080p, but Netflix and other streaming services that rely on DRM won't even be able to hit 1080p. This tablet only supports Google Widevine Level 3, restricting playback of services that rely on this DRM to standard definition, or 480p. This is very disappointing, as this screen really is nice to look at. especially when the brightness is up high. Hopefully Barnes & Noble can patch this in the future. Other than that, media playback is what you'd expect on a large screen device. That is, if you can excuse the poor speakers. Since this Nook Tablet 10.1-inch is running Android 8.1 Oreo, it can technically do side-by-side multitasking and video picture-in-picture. It definitely has the resolution and the RAM to support this, but I really wouldn't recommend it. Video playback, like with YouTube or Netflix in picture-in-picture, drags the performance massively down to the point where the device is often unresponsive on even simple tasks. If you do intend to use this feature with YouTube, I have noticed that lowering the playback resolution to 360p seems to help out a ton. With Netflix, however, you can't pick the playback quality, so it's just an overall bad experience. In side-by-side multitasking, it's heavily dependent on what you're trying to do. Unfortunately, the Nook app doesn't allow app multitasking, but I was able to test this with the Kindle app side-by-side with a few other apps. I even pulled up a YouTube video alongside a book in the Kindle app. Overall though, it's not a great experience. It really struggles to switch between apps, and even the task switcher starts to slow down. It's possible, but I wouldn't advise it unless you've got a very simple use case. The Wi-Fi and Bluetooth are pretty standard. The dual band AC here is a nice touch, especially for such a low-priced device. It has no trouble establishing a connection with my router and staying connected even when I move around the house. It switches between the nodes on my mesh Wi-Fi seamlessly, and it seems to have pretty good range. The speeds seem comparable to other tablets and phones that I have around for testing. 3 feet from my main router, on a fresh disconnect and reconnect, the Nook gets about 30 megabits per second on Netflix's fast test. That's about what my other similar devices get, while my dual-band AC laptops tend to get between 50 and 100 megabits per second. My internet speeds are rated at 200 megabits per second, and I usually get 200 to 220 megabits all day while using Ethernet from the main router. The Bluetooth 4.1 seems to be reliable. I haven't had any issues connecting to any devices or keeping a connection. I was able to game for over an hour using my Moga Power Bluetooth controller with no problem. Same for Bluetooth headphones and connected speakers. Even simultaneously connecting the controller and headphones wasn't an issue. The cameras on this tablet are what you'd expect on pretty much any tablet. They're pretty bad. 1.9 megapixels just isn't enough to capture any kind of real detail. The rear-facing camera has no flash, and it seems to really struggle in low-light situations. Even in my brightly lit office where I'm filming, the shots seem to always have a ton of noise, like it's cranking the ISO way up. For a quick video chat, the front-facing camera is just passable. It suffers from that same low-light performance as the rear shooter. I wasn't expecting much here, so I really wasn't disappointed, so here are a few samples. Here's a video test of the rear camera on the Nook Tablet 10.1-inch at 720p. Here's a test with the front-facing camera at 480p. Battery life is fairly impressive. Thanks to the low-powered A35 chipset, this large tablet can really stretch its equally large battery. In mixed-use testing, I can get between 6 and 9 hours. That's with the brightness set to half with auto-dimming enabled and doing usual tablet things, browsing the web for more stuff to review, watching YouTube videos, jumping into a game or two, and watching some Netflix maybe while I'm cooking. Switch this tablet up for strictly reading duty by lowering the brightness and turning off some of the automatic syncing, and you can extend that battery life to 12 hours or more. That is, if you can manage to read for 12 hours straight, because the standby battery life isn't great. It seems to lose about 20 to 30% of battery life per day just sitting idle. The charging dock comes in handy here though. I just drop it in the dock when I'm done with it, and it's always ready to go when I am. The UI here is nearly stock Android 8.1 Oreo. The app drawer at the bottom is the same, except with a few Barnes & Noble app shortcuts by default, and you can very easily replace these with simple dragging and dropping. The home screen has a few Barnes & Noble Nook app widgets by default, but those can be moved or even removed entirely. Again, just drag and drop. Otherwise, the interface is completely stock Android, and that's very nice to see. The Google Play Store is even on the home screen when you first turn the tablet on. Definitely a massive plus for this tablet versus other, let's say, similarly priced and sized alternatives. The accessories available for this tablet were pretty good at launch. I picked up the Smart Folio Slim cover, the Smart Folio with keyboard cover, and the charging dock I mentioned earlier. The Smart Folio Slim cover is great if you're looking for some protection, but it's a pretty high $30 price. It covers the corners, the back, the screen, and it turns the tablet on when the cover is opened. It's good quality, but hopefully some third-party, lower-priced alternatives will pop up. The keyboard cover feels very good in the hand, but it adds a good amount of heft to the overall package. It seems to provide very little value. It offers the same protection and adds a good bit of utility. It also acts as a stand for the tablet, and obviously provides a simple-to-use small keyboard. If you're planning to type a lot on this tablet, you can't go wrong. It is a bit pricey though, at $40, and that's nearly a third of the cost of the tablet. The charging dock, with its $35 price tag, I think, is worth every penny. The tablet doesn't have any show mode when docked or any cool features like that, but it's a sturdy, slim, attractive dock, and it gives you a way to prop the tablet up without any cumbersome folding covers or stands. And it charges the device. I use this dock constantly. If the tablet isn't in my hands, it's in the dock. I even use it on my desk while I'm reading these scripts, as well as to watch Netflix or YouTube all over the house. Here's my verdict, the good. A low $130 price tag, a crisp, high-resolution screen, decent amount of RAM, great battery life, a quality feel, and Google Play out of the box make this a great deal, as long as your expectations aren't sky high. And for the bad, a slow chipset and mediocre speakers are really the only things letting this tablet down. Sluggish performance and heavy loads and under multitasking show up often, and don't expect to be filling any rooms with sound. Headphones or external speakers are often a must with this tablet. Overall, this Nook Tablet 10.1 inch is a fantastic value for a casual user. If you're planning on reading a lot and doing a few other things between reading, this device is probably perfect for you. This tablet may also do well if you're just planning on doing some light social media or even some light media consumption with a few casual games thrown in. However, if you consider yourself a power user or a gamer, I'd steer clear. Otherwise, get ready to wait a lot and to get very friendly with the Clear All button on the app switcher. For instance, I'm a very patient power user. I'm used to buying and testing lower powered hardware because I'm always hunting for value. This tablet can frustrate me from time to time, and I often find myself just picking up my phone to do things even while I'm holding the tablet waiting. However, I can't argue with the value it provides. It's a jack of all trades. It can do a lot of things, but it doesn't do any of them particularly well, except perhaps reading. This Nook Tablet 10.1 inch is great for reading books, magazines, and even technical documents. But that really shouldn't surprise anyone coming from a bookstore like Barnes & Noble. This tablet has a niche, and it fills it well. Just don't pull it out of that niche and expect miracles. Keep your expectations low, and this device is a great value at the $130 price tag. I hope you enjoyed this rather lengthy review of the new Nook Tablet 10.1 inch. If you found this useful, I'd appreciate a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you'd like to see more. I've got some more full reviews and unboxings coming soon, but that's all for this one, so thank you for watching and have a great day.